Next up I read the Prison? Next up I read the why can't I speak? Oh! No! Brilliant, perfect, unique, talented, like the best book I've ever read. Hello my angels, welcome back to another video. My name is Rowan and today we are doing my July wrap up. As you can see, I've literally just brushed my hair and I've got a bit of a lion's mane going on, so please ignore that. Usually I don't do monthly wrap-ups. I did one for June, obviously, because we had Whatever-a-thon, and usually before that I did a quarterly wrap-up from January to March. So I missed out April and May for a wrap-up, but I didn't read that much in those months, and I was gonna do a halfway wrap-up as well, but then I ended up doing a Whatever-a-thon wrap-up, and it all just kind of bleh into one, and you all kind of knew what I was reading in April and May because it was all like Sean Maguire stuff, so I thought there's not really much point going through that again. So July, I'm doing a wrap-up because I read 15 fucking books in July, which is incredible. I usually read 4 on average. Currently it's August and it's nearly the end of the second week and I've read 3. I was hoping to have read 4 by the end of the second week of August, but there's 2 days left. Who knows what will happen in the next 2 days. Today we're going to go through my July wrap up. Half of it is Kindle Unlimited Smut. So that's going to be near the end. I'm going to put a little warning on those bits because obviously it's 18 plus and I'm not going to discuss anything in graphic detail, but some people also don't give a shit about stuff like that. So that'll be a separate section for you guys. But let's get into the physical books that I read in July. I say physical, some of them were ebooks. So the first book that I read in July was an ARC, and that was Jade Fire Gold by C.L. Tan. This was kind of like one of my most anticipated books. I think it's coming out in like November or something similar like that. Basically, it was pitched to Zutara, which is Zuko and Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Kind of typical YA fantasy setting where, you know, magic is banned, but the main character has magic. Ooh, she has to hide it. There were some really cool parts to it. There's some really cool elements. I really liked the setting and I really liked the kind of elements of backstory and like culture in it. But ultimately this did fall short for me. I did give it 3 stars. I think maybe this type of story just wasn't for me. I usually do love an Asian setting, East Asian settings in particular. I usually like the tropes that tend to come with an East Asian setting, but I think the writing kind of fell short for me with this. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't get why the characters liked each other. I didn't get much from side characters. I just didn't feel any connection really, and that's sort of the main thing that makes me enjoy a book is the connection to the characters. Because, you know, the world could be amazing, but if I don't give a shit about the main character, then it's not going to go well, is it? But yeah, in the end, 3 stars. I think maybe other people have enjoyed this a lot more than I did. I think it is down to personal preference. So it was an unfortunate one for me, but I would recommend picking it up if you do like the sound of it, because I think other people would enjoy it more than I did. Next, I read another ARC, but it came out to like just about as I read it, and this was A Master of Jinn by P. Deli Clark. And this was really, really good. I read the novella called A Dead Jinn in Cairo earlier on, I think a month earlier, which is only like 40 pages. I really love the setting of this, really like the main character Fatma. She is just really like on it. She knows what she's doing, she knows what she wants. She's really cool and always like sophisticated. The way she dresses in the different suits and stuff, I just really love that part of her personality. I gave this 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5, only because some of the mystery elements. This was essentially like a detective murder mystery story, but set in steampunk 1920s, I want to say, Cairo. It might be earlier than that. Steampunk, some age, Cairo. The setting was really good. The world building was incredible. In this world, someone, I can't quite remember his name, basically found a way to rip a hole in the space-time continuum and go through to other worlds. So not only obviously did that open up Earth to go to other worlds, but opened up other worlds to come to Earth. So there's all sorts of people living in Cairo. Jinn, water demons, like all sorts of different types of demons, fire demons called Ifrit. Lots of the same stuff that you would have seen in City of Brass, if you read that by S.A. Chakraborty. So a lot of the same mythical creatures as well as that. So it was really nice to be in a kind of world with those creatures again, because obviously, like, when you read certain things, like, you read a lot of Greek mythology, like, you know things like the Minotaur, the different gods and stuff. So it's really, really cool to enter another world, seeing all of the same mythology and the same creatures, because it really feels like solid, awesome, real, obviously, I mean, it's myths, but older myths from other countries. I really, really find it really interesting, and it's just something new and something fresh for, like, the publishing industry and for, like, people in general to read about. But yeah, basically there is a mystery element is the main sort of plot driving the story, and the end was a little bit predictable. I did kind of see a lot of the plot twists coming. That's why it did drop a star for me, but I'm still super, super interested in, like, more stories in this universe. Hopefully, like, once the writer gets a bit more into his groove with mystery writing, maybe there'll be a bit more of a plot twist for me. I do know that, like, mystery writing in general, you tend to see it coming, though. I'm used to sort of a more of a Knives Out approach where it's like, holy shit, like, you didn't see it coming. I prefer that type of mystery. Overall, it was really, really good and a really solid book. Like, I'd recommend it to anyone. So this month I also finally finished my reread of Red Sister on audiobook. This I started in June as for the reread prompt for Whatever-a-thon, but I never finished it. I actually found it a lot slower than I remembered. I think I read it on ebook the first time that I read it, and then I listened to the 2 audiobooks for the 2 sequels. So I listened to the audiobook this time on its own, and the first, I want to say, like, 2/3 of it were really slow. I didn't not remember anything. There was, like, a few things that I didn't remember, but what I did remember was all the good stuff near the end. So when I was slogging through, like, the first 2/3, I was like, oh my god, this is taking so long to get to, like, the interesting plot and the interesting, like, magic system. Upon reread, I would possibly rate it like a 4, because it was a 5 initially, but I don't tend to re-rate things once I reread, because I think that reading something for the very first time is a very, very different experience to rereading it. I would put in my Goodreads, like, oh, I would re-rate this a 4, but I would keep the 5, like, on Goodreads in general. But yeah, I think initially I probably gave it a 5 because of the twists near the end are really good. It does get insanely good at the end, which I think was the same reason I gave Nevernight 5 stars, was like, it was quite slow near the beginning, but then by the end it ramped up so much that I was just like, this is incredible. So it is a similar situation to that, but I am glad I reread it because I had been wanting to for a while. I do really like the universe, and reading it as well made me remember some things from when I read the sequel series, which is the Book of the Ice, which is The Girl in the Mountain. I kind of got a few more things from that because I do want to reread The Girl in the Mountain to try and read the sequel because I didn't like it. I gave it like 2 stars. But then again, who has time for that? Who has time to reread a book you don't like? So it probably won't happen. So the next book that I read was Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. This is lovely Fairy Loot edition. I loved this. This was like a 4.5, like a 4 to 4.5 for me. The only thing that dropped was, like, I think it was a little bit lacking in the plot. To be honest, I loved the characters. I really loved the tension between the kind of enemies to lovers going on. I loved that they didn't, like, touch at all, or, like, they touched once because he had to save her life. I just thrive on, like, enemies to lovers where it's drawn out and they actually fucking hate each other, but they're so attracted to each other and they admit, like, both of those sides. Oh, it is just chef's kiss. So this is set in Italy, and the main character has a twin sister, and her twin sister turns up dead. They are both witches. In this universe, the Kingdom of the Wicked is kind of like hell. So there are the 7 deadly sins, and they are all the princes of hell. So our main character, what's her fucking name? Amelia. Our main character, Amelia, meets Wrath and kind of teams up with him. He tries to help her figure out who killed her sister because her sister was involved in something to do with his brother Pride. So they both have, like, stakes in this on finding out who has killed her sister. I won't say much more, but I did genuinely really love this. I was worried I wouldn't. I've heard not great things about Kerry Maniscalco. I did read Stalking Jack the Ripper. I gave it 4 stars quite a while ago now, but it's, like, quite... I don't want to say generic because this setting and this, like, concept, I've never read this concept. I feel like it's really unique, and I really enjoy it. It's like trashy and it's great. But yeah, I was worried that I wouldn't like this, but I ended up really, really liking it. It definitely exceeded my expectations. And I'm really excited for the sequel because I've heard that the sequel, Kingdom of the Cursed, is going to be more new adult and there's going to be a lot more like smutty scenes in it. So not that there's any smutty scenes in this, there aren't any. It's just a lot of tension. But I'd highly recommend this, I'm not going to lie. Like, you know, it's no adult, you know, like Poppy War or City of Brass. It's not like the most incredible plot or whatever in the world, but it's like really easy to read and it's just like, oh, the enjoyment factor for me was just through the roof. Next up, I read The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This is another Fairy Loot book that I have also bought the sequel special edition to. Now this was a little bit divisive. You may have seen me when I was reading it on sprints. I was a bit frustrated with this book. All the way through, it was like a 2-star up until like the last 100 pages. So the concept is this girl, God, I don't remember any characters' names. This girl, Kiva, is the prison healer. It's set in a fantasy world. She's in the prison. She is the prison healer. She's got some healing powers. The whole book, it's got trials in it. This is probably one of the worst trials books I've ever read. Trials, I don't know if you guys know, I mention it quite a few times, but whatever. Trials and tournaments are like my shit. That is my favourite trope of all time. Trials, you've got me. I will read the book. Don't care what else is about it. That's essentially why I picked up this book. The main character has to go through trials because this rebel queen turns up, but she's so injured that she can't go through the trials that she's going through for like her sentence. So because the main character Kiva gets a note from her family in to the prison secretly saying like, keep her alive, she decides to volunteer to do these trials. She has no powers to speak of that will help her through these trials. They're elemental. There's kind of a lot of things kind of didn't really make sense to me in this book. The logic part of the core pile was very low for this because I just hadn't got a clue why anyone liked each other. Like, I didn't care about any of the characters. Anytime any one of them was close to death, I didn't give a shit. I didn't care about the love interest. I didn't fancy him. I didn't fancy the main character either. So bisexual, opposite of bisexual panic in this book. And this phrase, don't let her die, we are coming, was repeated. I will literally find it for you because it was so fucking annoying. Right. Don't let her die, we are coming. Constantly throughout this book, she would repeat it to herself in her head. And I'm like, we fucking get it. They're coming, you can't let her die. I understand the concept. And like, I didn't understand why she kept going over it in her head in places where she didn't even need to be going over it in her head. It just pissed me off. In the end, I gave this 3 stars because the last 100 pages genuinely bumped it up a whole star because the plot twists and the way things that were revealed and like the ending was so good that I was intrigued enough to want to buy the sequel and to read the sequel. And I'm really hoping, because the sequel won't be set in the prison, I mean, I guess that's kind of a spoiler, but like, really, did you really think they were going to stay in the prison the whole time? Like, let's be honest. I'm hoping that the setting will help because the prison was so boring. I'm hoping that the new setting will like bring a lot more action and a lot more character development because I fucking hated this whole setting. It was shit. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. That's how I feel about The Prison Healer. Now, the next lot of books you will have seen me read in my 8 books in 8 days vlog, so, I'm not going to go too much into these. I'm going to give you ratings and just, you should know what they're about anyway, to be honest. So I first read The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. This is the 3rd book to the Winterlight trilogy. If you don't know what it's about, please go watch my other video or like any other video. I'm sure you know what The Bear and the Nightingale is about. That's the first book. I gave this 5 stars. Brilliant, perfect, unique, talented, like the best book I've ever read. I'm going to be filming my Insta-Love video on this series straight after this, so keep an eye out for that next week as well. Next, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed the back and forth between Luke and Addie. I really liked the modern day stuff. I did actually like her past flashbacks as well. I enjoyed seeing her journey. And I gave it 4 because I personally like a little bit more plot. I would have liked a little bit more action between Luke and her, maybe a bit of like a showdown, but no, it was very tame. But I think that is what type of book is. Like, I'm genuinely asking for something that the book isn't at that point. I really liked the narrator of the audiobook. She did a really lush French accent. Oh, chef's kiss, it was beautiful. But yeah, I'd really recommend the audiobook. I am gonna keep all of my copies. I like it enough that I'm gonna keep all of my copies. Genuinely, like, lived up to the hype mostly, and I would recommend it. So the last normal book that I read in July was Amarillo and the Night Brothers. This is the Watson Special Edition. Really loved this. This was like a 4.75. Again, you can hear my full thoughts in my vlog, but this was so close to a 5, but it was like some of the scenes were super quick, and they were like very important scenes that only lasted like a couple of paragraphs. I felt like especially the final showdown should have lasted much longer than it did. The concept of this is that Amari's brother has gone missing. He has like this super top secret job, and it turns out that he works for the Supernatural Bureau. So this is kind of like a Men in Black kind of deal, personally I think anyway. But it's not just aliens, it's any kind of supernatural stuff, any kind of weird goings on Earth. Every year there are trials. Ah! This is a good example of a trials trope. This was incredible, really loved the trials. Do wish they had lasted a bit longer or there'd been a bit more about them, but that's just my personal preference. It's really good. She basically wants to find her brother, so she enters into the program, and it just goes from there, really. Typical middle grade, there's like a couple of, you know, there's like a bully girl and stuff. This world was incredible, really loved it. Can't wait for the sequel. Okay, so now we are going to go really quickly through the Kindle Unlimited smut that I read this month. I am gonna do a video near the end of the year where I go over like the best and the worst of the Kindle Unlimited smut for the year, because let's be honest, there's not much substance to these. So I'm gonna name them, give you the rating, and give you a very short synopsis. So the first one I read was Ice Planet Barbarians. This was one that was going around book Twitter a lot because it was like crazy or something. So basically I gave it 3 stars. It's a big blue alien man on a winter planet who like mates with the main character. The beginning concept is a bit grim. Like they get abducted by aliens and some of the other aliens like rape a girl at the beginning. So that really like took it down for me. The smut was written alright. Basically, if I give it a 3, I'm like, oh, it was okay. If I give it a 4, I'm like, oh, I would reread that if I fancied. And I've never given a smut book a 5 because I can't physically do that to myself. Next, I read Follow by Tessa Bailey. This got a 4-star for me, so I really enjoyed The Smut by Tessa Bailey. I do want to pick up some more of her newer books, like Fix Her Up, and there's one coming out, I can't remember what it's called. Those are more like romance with smut though, so I'm excited to read those, because this one was basically like a lot of smut. Follow is basically a girl who, her brother's in the mafia or something, and there's a guy, the mafia Don, tells the main character to go follow his son because his son is going on a trip and like neglecting his duties, so she goes to seduce the son. Not much else to it. Next I read Stalked by the Kraken by Lillian Clark. This is like a monster fucker romance. Gave this 4 stars as well. The smut was really good. The main character is like, she runs like a bathhouse that like when people have sex there, it basically absorbs the magic and they can like sell off the excess as like power to people. Like supernatural beings have sex there and stuff. That was pretty good. Again, 4 stars, which means I'd recommend it. I next read Skin by Avida Vice. I wouldn't recommend this. I gave it 2 stars. It was only like 50 pages, but it was pretty boring. It was just a woman and a gargoyle. There wasn't much else to it. Then I read Priceless by Miranda Silva. Now this I would definitely recommend because it is kinky as fuck. So they're on a college campus and this guy like pays this girl to have sex with him, but it's like more like pays her to be his companion. Like, it's exclusive. It's not just like he prostitutes like everyone. But she like has no money, so she says yes. But she also like really fancies him anyway. But they like really, he like really gets into like humiliating her because he's paying her and stuff. So that's pretty good. We recommend that one. Next, I read 2 more by Miranda Silva because I liked the smut so much in Priceless. So I read The Boys Next Door, which is about twins. And then I read Crave, which is a short story collection. At the end, there's 2 small stories about the couple from Priceless. So yeah, I gave Priceless 4, I gave The Boys Next Door 4, and I gave Crave 3. So that's it for the Kindle Unlimited. Like I said, I wasn't going to go into too much detail. At the end of the year, I'm going to go through my favourites, and that's pretty much it. So that is the end of the Kindle Unlimited section, and that's the end of my July wrap-up. Favourite book of the month has got to go to Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. Like, that's a no-brainer. I think that was the only 5-star. Yeah, so that was the only 5-star was Winter of the Witch. So yeah, that's my July wrap-up, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this type of video, please give it a like. Make sure you comment. If you don't really have anything to say, just drop me a little yellow heart in the comments. And make sure you subscribe so you get some more content from me. If you do want me to go into more detail on like the Kindle Unlimited stuff, let me know. I can do separate videos. I would prefer to do separate videos personally. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!